Hi, it's Michael Lyons from Recovery Systems. With me today is Myren Fu from Higher Performance. Good morning, Myren.
Good morning, Michael.
We've got a series that we want to put out to you on recovery myths, methods, and marginal gains. We hope you enjoy the series. First of all, we're going to start off to introduce ourselves and our experience relevant to this topic. Myren, I wondered if you'd mind introducing yourself and give us a sense of where your experience has been.
Okay, so my name is Myren and I'm the owner of High Performance in Singapore. Currently, we have two gyms and one headquarters in Tanjung Katong Road. The whole point of why High Performance was started in the first place is because 7 years ago, I wasn't really too fascinated with the things, or rather impressed with the things in the fitness industry. There was not much science. Fitness was not a big thing. There wasn't HIIT, there wasn't spinning, none of this. And I just found that there was a gap between science, performance, and pretty much training. There was this gap between workouts and training, and everyone was thinking workouts was training or training is bodybuilding. That was the time that I actually came into the picture. And when I started High Performance, it was really about what actually works. It's about finding the minimal effective dose of what would give the results, especially for performance and for physique. I was very hard bent on data collection. And over the years, as we got money, we spent a lot of the money on equipments, on trying to measure data points, conducting experiments of up to 100 people at a time, so that we are sure that if we were to put in this input, what's the outcome? And not just, it's not a guesswork. And that's why we name ourselves the Thoughtful Pursuit of Strength as our tagline.
Right, very nice. I love the use of the word dose there. We're going to talk about that a little later on, as well as measuring stuff. I think that's highly important.
Yeah.
So just a quick introduction of myself. Growing up in native New Zealand, I was exposed to a lot of sport. So the whole point of going to school was to play sport.
Okay.
Pretty much. Yes, we did study as well, but so that was everything from rugby, cricket, our two national sports, through to a lot of other sports. Our school, interestingly enough, was a basketball school because our head phys ed teacher knew that we would never be successful in rugby. So he was brought up as being coached by a guy who was coach of the century, voted by his peers, Arthur Lydiard. So Arthur's principles were very interesting. I learnt them then because we used to have to do 3 cross countries a week.
Right.
So not 1, 3.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And it was all about base building. So the Lydiard principle was 87-9-4. So 87% of your endurance work should be strength endurance related, 9% at threshold, 4% at VO2 max. So a very interesting formula that has stayed with me over the years as I competed at national level, and also early in my early days on an Olympic team, and then as I went on to coach others. That was a very interesting principle that stuck with me, and it's one that I believe the body responds to well.
Do you still stick to the principle of 87-9-4?
Yes, yeah. As I've gotten older, because I'm 62 now, so my years of putting a race number on are over by my own choice. I treat exercise as medicine now, and as the years have gone by, the amount of strength work that I need to do has proportionately increased.
Okay.
Because the bad thing about endurance is that anything over an hour and you're eating muscle.
Right.
Your body's going catabolic, and typically we were doing 4, 5, 6 hour rides. Not good for someone my age because all your structural integrity is compromised because you're actually tearing muscle down. You're getting weaker in a sense and not stronger, and weaker from a support muscle point of view. So I realized that doing strength work was part of my medicine.
That's very interesting, Michael, because a lot of endurance athletes, I believe, will be like,
Yep.
no, I need to ride for 4 to 6 hours. I mean, I used to race as well, if you didn't know. I used to race in 2012, and we rode 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And each ride was between 2, sometimes 5 hours on the weekend.
Yeah.
And it's always more is better.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Well, the other thing is, if we talk about that for a second, the whole market here is a lot of people are training too fast. So beyond a certain point, the body for endurance athletes above an aerobic zone, your whole capillary function and improvement is not getting any better. You're triggering a different system. That's where that 87.94, 87% strength endurance. So that's a very important base. You're building the base of the pyramid and then layering on top of that the specific threshold work and then the VO2 max work. So I see a lot of the community here training too fast. The other thing that we're going to talk about in more depth is that during COVID, people's response to being locked down, the stress of that, the stress of not being able to leave, not being able to change their scenery and get some relief from this has quite often manifested itself into unhealthy distances. So we see people that were previously running 30 or 40 kilometers a week, all of a sudden having an ambition to run 50, 80, 100 kilometers. And to my earlier point, anything above an hour, the body is actually tearing down muscle and support. And it's a good recipe for the body breaking if there's not good S&C work in complement to the endurance work. So so I spent a bunch of time from I'm going to call it my first career. My first career was one of kissing frogs. So kissing frogs meaning sometimes you have to kiss a few frogs to find your Prince Charming job.
I wonder.
Yeah. So I worked in tech and Meditech. It was actually a very good experience in a sense. I did my first Meditech project around just over 20 years ago. And that in combination with my sporting experience actually led me to what was somewhat a passion. So I mentioned I'm probably not going to pin a race number on again, and that's fine. That's all my own choice. I've done more than 100 races, and I've got dust catching medals. I've also accumulated a couple of injuries from doing the wrong thing and not following my own advice. And actually, as a coach, that's very important to learn yourself, because no two bodies are completely the same.
Yeah.
They may respond differently to training,
Right.
which is why you're measuring stuff.
That's true.
And so that's a very important thing to identify. So since I've gone on, as well as running a company, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute, to writing about things that are meaningful to me, like recovery for runners, recovery for cyclists, mental health and exercise, keeping things healthy. And so that's been a very I've had to learn to write, go back to school, and I've had to learn. I learned how bad my grammar was as well when I ran it through a few of these programs. But that's all an improvement process. So that's been quite enjoyable. And it may surprise you that I do a bit of race commentary as well.
I'm not surprised.
So yeah, mostly cycling. So that's kind of an in the moment thing, a bit of domain knowledge from the past. And I'm CEO and brand owner of Recovery Systems. We're in a 6th year. We started here in Singapore. We've shipped to 14 countries. We focus on 3 particular areas. First is athletic recovery. That's something that's very near and dear to your heart, right?
Absolutely, Michael.
Yep. So training makes you worse, and recovery
Makes you better.
Yep. Absolutely. Locking in gains.
Yep.
So that's an important aspect. The second is healthy aging, seeing I'm definitely in that category, but actually healthy aging is even somebody going through the life cycle of 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and beyond. And, who knows, 70s and 80s going forward could be the new 50s and 60s.
It will be.
Yeah. And so healthy aging also includes brain health, which is really boils down to at a cellular level. Detoxification, mitochondrial health are important for everything from body to brain. So that's really a passion for us going forward as well, and it always has been. The third thing we do is management of chronic pain and long-term illness. So I'll give you some examples. And if this is all I ever do with my life, then I'm quite happy.
Okay.
The illnesses that we're supplying for management of are things like diabetes. So we've already been instrumental in preventing some patients having their legs amputated, of course, along with their treatment and under a surgeon's care. But we've helped to revive the lower limb, so that's pretty darn good. We're influencing people's quality of life from previously not being able to walk to actually being able to walk again, and reversing that decline in the quality of life. So other illnesses also include things like DVT, lymphedema, and also into the brain inflammation area of PTSD, autism, Alzheimer's, and so on. Often, which those conditions are include brain inflammation, and also include metabolic issues that are underlying because the person isn't able to move like they previously would want to. So we've been delighted to be contributing to the management of those areas. So just a bit of a reference of organizations that we've worked with. And this is quite a cool thing for us because we get to work across different sports, and there's always things that we learn. So I'll start off with Rugby World Cup. We supplied 2019 Rugby World Cup in Japan. We were supposed to supply this year's, which is the Women's Rugby World Cup. This is supposed to be in New Zealand, but COVID intervened on that. It's been postponed a year. And then on the football side, Sporting, CP, football, Singapore Football Association, a bunch of pro football, both here and across Southeast Asia. Rugby, New Zealand Rugby, which were a very interesting customer of ours, because you could probably argue that their program is one of the best in the world given their results. Singapore Rugby, some great learnings to pass on to them with our workings with World Rugby and so on. Then high performance sports arm of both New Zealand for summer and winter Olympics, and Singapore for the most recent Olympics, right, plus all the SEA Games and so on. We supplied a bunch of equipment, mostly to the swim program. Right across the other sports, including Paralympic sports as well. So taking just a quick snapshot of some high-profile customers. None of these are sponsored, by the way. They're all customers, so we don't typically use them in our social media. So the 3 Olympic gold medalists there, Joseph Schooling, Adam Hall, and Nur Alim in the Paralympic archery area. Then elite rugby, so Lima Sapawanga, who's an All Black, plus just played a pro contract in the UK, around $3 million contract too, so not a small amount. Susie Walsham, the world's vertical marathon champ, and Courtney Duncan, dual motocross world champion. So motocross, for those that might not know, is probably one of the hardest sports you can do, because when it goes wrong really badly. So these are high performance trail machines or motocross machines, and they're jumping over things. It is a race, so it's not about artistic riding. You're going flat out, and Courtney's had a few spills that have ended up in surgery, but she's all these people are top athletes that know that training makes you worse, recovery makes you better, and that marginal gains from recovery are often what separates the different steps of the podium, or even getting on the podium,
which we'll pretty much talk about later on.
Yeah. So it's great to be working with High Performance. We see High Performance as a gym that differentiates itself from the other gyms around. We have a close partnership with Fit Asia and X-Pro, as well as a lot of clubs and teams here in Singapore. We love working with coaches and we love working with age group athletes as well, because everyone has the challenge of the balancing their life between work or their professional life, their home life, key relationships and family, plus their passion for exercise at whatever level that is. And recovery is the key thing that holds it all together, the key glue that makes sure that there's a good balance across the areas of our life that we need to perform in. Okay, and I mentioned earlier we also supply the medical market. Here's some of our medical and complementary partners in the medical area, including vascular, oncology, physio, osteo, and the mind area with a company called the Mind Lab. So they're looking at tracking and measuring improvements from people with learning disabilities or chronic illness, or even working with elite sports people.
That's interesting.